Today's presentation will be on the Kritis on Swami Pranatharthihara and Goddess Dharmasamasamvardhivi, composed by Tyagaraja on the Kshetra Thiruvaiyaru. This study evaluates Tyagaraja as a philosopher-musician whose works articulates a systematic ideology of Nadam, a conversational model of bhakti, and a structurally transformative reconfiguration of a Carnatic Kriti. While Tyagaraja is conventionally celebrated as Rama Bhakta and a central figure of the Carnatic Trinity, alongside Muthuswami Dikshitar and Shama Shastri, this article argues that his compositions reflect a broad and inclusive framework of beliefs, interpretations, and perspectives, understanding the world, humanity, and existence through the lens of faith, divine revelation, and nature of God, in which music itself becomes a sacred medium. Rooted in the principles of Nada Upasana, the worship of the divine through sound, Tyagaraja works situate devotion within specific sacred spaces while simultaneously transcending them. Through references to temples, deities, and pilgrimage centers, he embeds music within lived sacred geography, yet at a deeper level, his kritis articulate a relational devotional metaphysics where the bond between the individual soul and the divine is expressed as a dialogue, surrender, longing, questioning, and grace. His compositional corpus is not merely a collection of devotional compositions, but a sustained spiritual philosophy articulated through raga, tala, and poetic expression. Focusing on his Kshetra Kritis on Pranatharthihara and Dharmasamasamvardhivi of Thiruvaiyaru, situated within the ritual culture of the Ayyarappar temple, this study also integrates linguistic analysis of Telugu and Sanskrit texts with, of course, references to the raga and the structure of the kritis. It demonstrates that Tyagaraja's compositions enact a theological movement from profound spiritual shift, experiencing the divine as the vast, universal, and impersonal force to encountering it as a close, personal, and loving presence, bringing that expanded consciousness into the heart through devotion and prayer, thereby shaping the aesthetic grammar of our art of Carnatic tradition as well. The sacred sound in Tyagaraja is not merely artistic expression, it is indeed a philosophy at last. So the figure of Tyagaraja occupies a nearly mythic place in South Indian classical music. Tyagaraja's biographies portray him as an uncompromising devotee of Rama who has rejected royal patronage in favor of spiritual pursuit. He is celebrated as a prolific composer whose kritis form the backbone of the Carnatic repertoire. Tyagaraja may be hailed as a philosopher-musician. He expresses devotion philosophically, but at the same time, his compositions are a fundamental expression of reality, time, and existence. His approach is rooted in the belief that truth is revealed through relationship and encounter rather than just a doctrine. His structural innovations reshape the Carnatic compositional architecture. His works integrate geography into music experience, describes a theological approach that moves beyond the rigid, narrow, or exclusive claims of specific religious domination or group, aiming instead for a more universal, inclusive, or a pluralistic understanding of divine truth. The above is ascertained specifically to his Saiva and Shakti Kshetra Kritis composed in Thiruvaiyaru, the town where he spent most of his life. His group Kritis are enriched with many characteristics. Contextual devotion, which means a direct reference to the presiding deity of the temple. The raga choice he has made. He has chosen all major Rakti ragas for composing these compositions. The structured grandeur, the architectural density, like the compositions can be used at any part of a Carnatic concert. It can be sung as one of the main kritis as well. The personal voice that he has portrayed, even while addressing different deities, the emotional tone remains introspective and bhakti-centered. Compared to Muthuswami Dikshitar, Tyagaraja's references for iconographic details may be less descriptive, but it's very more emotive. Moving on to the crux of the topic, the geography and the sonic ecology of Thiruvaiyaru. Thiruvaiyaru, a town in the Thanjavur district of Tamil Nadu, a significant place where the 5 rivers, namely Kaveri, Vadavaru, Vennaru, Vettaru, Kudamurittiyaaru, இந்த 5 ஆறுகளும் சேர்ந்த இடம் தான் பஞ்சநதீஸ்வரர் என்ற பெயர் வந்திருக்கு. ஸோ பஞ்சநதீஸ்வரர் ஐயாரப்பர் டெம்பிள், it stands at the center of this beautiful landscape. The presiding deity is Shiva as pranatharthihara. His consort, his wife, is dharmasamasamvardhivi. A historic Shiva temple where Tyagaraja often worshipped. He composed compositions dedicated to the presiding deities here. It is therefore implausible to imagine his devotional imagination as exclusively Vaishnava. Tyagaraja lived in this environment from childhood until attaining Samadhi. Together, Swami Pranatharthihara and Goddess Dharmasamasamvardhivi represent the theological unity of Shiva and Shakti, compassion and dharma, transcendence and eminence, embedded within ritual, musical and sacred geography of Thiruvaiyaru. Special mention to the Valmiki Mandapam, which is an area within the ashram where the same compositions are still engraved on the marble slabs for all the visitors to read. Tyagaraja's theology rests fundamentally on nada. Nada in Indian aesthetic thought is not simply sound. It is vibratory principle. It is a manifestation of Brahman. It's a bridge between the material and the transcendent. In Tyagaraja's vision, music devoid of bhakti is spiritually empty. Bhakti devoid of nada lacks embodied realization. When I say Thiruvaiyaru, the immediate thing that comes to our minds is the annual Tyagaraja Aradhana that happens every year. So musicians gather not merely to perform but to offer a collective nada as devotion. So then music becomes offering, which is aradhana, discipline, which is sadhana, revelation, which is anubhava. So the kritis on Panchanadishwar Kshetra, Thiruvaiyaru, there are many kritis. It has not been consolidated as a Pancharatna like the other Kovur, Lalgudi, Srirangam. There are kritis, there are almost 10 kritis composed on God, Pranatharthihara and Dharmasamasamvardhivi. I have chosen 5 kritis to mention. So, Panchanadishwarar kritis, Ilalo Pranatharthihara in Raga Atana, Yavarunnaru Bhrova in Malavashri, Ehi Tri Jagadisha in Saranga. So, to begin with, the philological and theological, the literary beauty and the doctrine of the kritis I would like to first address. Ilalo Pranatharthiharudu in the Ragam Atana set to Adi Thadam. Pranatharthihara, Pranata is those who bow down, devotees. Arti is Pranatharthihara, the remover of the suffering of devotees. So Shankara is attaining the maker, the giver, the one who causes, the one who destroys the sins and the giver of auspiciousness and happiness. So the song portrays a deeply personal devotional lament addressed to the Lord of Thiruvaiyaru, invoked as a sovereign of 5 sacred rivers as the deity celebrated by Tyagaraja. Tyagaraja recalls acts of complete bodily prostration, hands, feet, chest, forehead and shoulders touching the earth, as well as earnest verbal supplication for refuge. Despite this sustained and embodied devotion, the devotee perceives an absence of divine grace. The verse thus dramatizes a central feature of bhakti discourse, the oscillation between unwavering faith in divine compassion and the anguished perception of divine silence. Tyagaraja articulates both devotion and protest, reinforcing the relational and experiential character of the devotional tradition. Atana's forceful gamakas and bright tonality create urgency without despair. Ilalo pranata ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు పేరవరిదిదేరే శంకరుడని ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు పేరవరిదిదేరే శంకరుడని ఇలలో ప్రణతార్తిహరుడనుచు The next kriti I would like to move on is Yavarunaru Brova in Malavashri set to Mishra Chapu. Who else is there to protect me articulates the theological principle of exclusive surrender. Tyagaraja positions himself as one who has performed complete bodily prostration, invoked the Lord's name, and sought refuge with unwavering devotion. Yet he experiences an apparent delay in divine grace. This tension between faith and perceived silence forms the emotional core of the composition. Tyagaraja recalls his acts of surrender, prostrating fully upon the ground, praying for refuge, and then questions the divine epithets traditionally ascribed to the Lord, remover of the distress of those who bow and giver of happiness in this world. These questions are not expressions of doubt, but devotional intensification. They dramatize the intimacy of bhakti relationship in which the devotee may question the Lord precisely because of unwavering faith. Importantly, the plea moves beyond external protection. Tyagaraja ultimately asks for inner transformation, the courage that comes from being accepted as the Lord's own, and the revelation of the discipline required to restrain the mind and meditate wholeheartedly. Divine grace, therefore, is framed not only as a rescue from suffering, but as an empowerment for spiritual realization. Musically, Malavashri reinforces the mood of solemn appeal and introspective devotion. Moving on to the next kriti, Ehi Tri Jagadisha in the Ragam Saranga set to Mishra Chaputala. In this composition, the composer addresses Shiva through an elaborate and richly layered litany of epithets. He is invoked as Lord of the three worlds, Shambhu, the Lord of Thiruvaiyaru, and the deity praised by the sage Agastya. He is described as the consort of Parvati, the bearer of river Ganga, the destroyer of the three fortresses, and the protector of celestials. What is particularly striking is the structure of the composition is that after an extended sequence of exalted attributes, each reinforcing divine power, auspiciousness and sovereignty, the composition concludes with a simple and direct plea, come near, protect me, extend the support of your lotus hand. Thus the hymn exemplifies a defining feature of bhakti poets, the movement from cosmic theology to personal supplication. Ehi Trijagadisha, Ehi Trijagadisha, Ehi Trijagadisha, Shambho panjanadisha yehi trijagadisha shambho pahi panjanadisha yehi trijagadisha shambho pahi panjanadisha yehi trijagadisha shambho Moving on to the kritis on Dharmasamasamvardhivi, Tyagaraja's goddess compositions reveal mature relational devotion. So the first kriti to go is Karuna Judavamma in the ragam Thodi, set to Adi Talam. It has got multiple charanams. Dharmasamasamvardhivi is praised as Parashakti, the blue lotus-eyed goddess, the one who shares half the body of Shiva and the sustaining power of innumerable worlds. Theologically, the composition affirms her cosmic sovereignty while invoking her as an intimately accessible mother. The poet declares absolute trust in her as the support of all existent and the destroyer of karmic consequences incurred even unknowingly. Yet the hymn quickly turns into an urgent plea. He asks why devotion to her lotus feet has not yet been granted and questions why her compassion appears concealed. The language is very bold but reverential. He insists that it is not fitting for her to ignore the cries of one who has no other refuge. A striking theological moment occurs when the poet dismisses any imagined rivalry between Rama and Shiva. By rejecting sectarian division, he affirms the essential unity of the divine grace. Thus, his appeal to the mother does not negate his devotion elsewhere, rather it reinforces a non-dual devotional vision. The hymn culminates in a deeply personal assertion. It would not be appropriate for mother to abandon Tyagaraja. In this way, cosmic theology resolves into relational intimacy and appeal grounded in trust, surrender, and unwavering dependence. So we move on to the next kriti, Bale Balendu in the ragam Riti Gaula set to Adi Talam. This composition is a richly layered invocation to the Divine Mother, addressed as Dharmasamasamvardhivi. She is praised as a youthful goddess adorned with crescent moon, the healer of samsara, the mother of all worlds. She is Lalita, Shyamala, the essence of Vedas, radiant as countless flashes of lightning and the beloved consort of Shiva. The composition also situates her within relational theology. She is invoked as delighter of Shiva, associated with pranatharthihara, and praised as the deity who fructifies the bhajana of Tyagaraja. The hymn culminates in a deeply intimate appeal. The poet questions the delay in her protection and asks to be acknowledged as a child despite his many faults. The final aspiration is inward, that his mind may ever worship her feet with steadfast diligence.
Da
The next Kriti, Shive Pahimam in the Ragam Kalyani, set to Adi Thalam. This composition is addressed to the Divine Mother. It's again an invocation. Shiva, Ambiga, Katyayani and Dharmasamasamvardhivi revered at Thiruvaiyaru on the banks of Kaveri. She is praised as the consort of Shiva, source of auspiciousness, embodiment of all animate and inanimate existence, and the divine power associated with Vishnu. Invoking her through multiple theological identities, the composition integrates Shaiva, Vaishnava and Agamic strands of devotion. To make a special mention, I used the recordings of Sri K.V. Narayanaswamy, Madurai Mani Iyer, Sri Ramnath Krishnan, Srimati Bombay Sisters. I used these recordings as reference for the various songs so far. So findings and observations. Tyagaraja transformed the Kriti into a theological architecture, such as the Pallavi introduces the thesis, the Anupallavi expands the metaphysical dimension, the Charanam resolves into an intimate prayer. The Sangati development has been, it is an emotional intensification. The raga is not only an ornamentation used by Tyagaraja, it is a theological vehicle to create the mood of the song. Across the Kritis, there was a consistent pattern that emerged, such as it was all invocation of divine, it was a personal confession, it had a rhetorical questioning, and then it was a final surrender to the Swami and Goddess. To conclude, there are of course many Kritis which are spurious and referred to as Prakshipta Kritis, where the authenticity of the composer is not accepted, perhaps being sung by musicians. For example, the dharmasamasamvardhivi Kriti in Nasika Bhushani. Maravairi Ramani Manju Bhashini. This composition is also on Dharmasamasamvardhivi of Thiruvaiyaru. But since the authentication is under benefit of doubt, there are many other kritis like this which are spurious. To conclude, the compositions of Tyagaraja reveals bhakti as a relational dialogue rather than a passive submission. The sound becomes the conversation for the composer. Through Nada Upasana and Kshetra devotion, he shaped both theology and aesthetics of Carnatic tradition. Nadam in Tyagaraja is not a decorative art, it is lived, disciplined, and a philosophical experience. Thank you. Thank you, Sinada Trust and Vishnu Foundation for giving me an opportunity.